Hi, everybody. Welcome.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, we're listening. We're listening. You're listening. I'm talking. You're listening to Thanks We Hate It. And this is episode 18,
18.
which means we're
Woohoo.
gaining on 20, which means, whoa, we've been doing this a while.
I know.
Which is
That's a big deal.
not really, kind of. 18 weeks.
Listen.
That's a lot.
Yeah, slightly longer because we switched to every other week. So like probably closer to 20 weeks
True.
at this point.
True.
Good
So,
for us.
yeah. How is everybody doing? Hope you're all doing good. We've got a packed show today.
Yes, we do. I am excited to talk about all the stuff that we have planned because it's kind of a smorgasbord of slightly unrelated things, but they're like all the things that you and I really enjoy talking about in our like personal private conversations.
Yes.
So I think this episode's going to be fun.
You guys, yeah, I think so too. You guys will get a glimpse of our more of what we chat about just in normal day life. So
yes.
How are you doing, Mickey? How is your life going?
Ooh,
Busy?
girl. Yeah, it's been busy.
Ooh, girl.
My body is also revolting against me currently.
Love that.
Yes, I joke with Aaron all the time that my body is incompatible with life, and this feels like one of those weeks. I injured my back like a long time ago, and I've been slowly working through sciatica since then. And then I had a good period of time where it was better. I felt almost no pain, and then I think I just like sat too long or was like working on something in my computer for too long, so my back started hurting again.
Oh no.
Don't love that for me. And then I woke up this morning and I had a shoulder injury a while ago that I thought was better, and I literally, Hannah, I'm not even joking you, I went to go pull a shirt out of my dresser and I just like reached for it and I felt my shoulder like and so I was like,
no.
excellent. So that's happening today. So if I make a weird face.
So like when you're falling and you like goes in slow motion because you like see yourself, you like have an out of body experience and you're like, this is happening.
No.
And then it happens and you're like, oh.
Yes. I literally like stood there frozen
That's gonna
for
hurt
a second,
later.
and I was like, please no. Please God no. But it did in fact happen.
So sorry.
It's
Have you tried Aleve? Aleve is
I-
really good for that kind of stuff.
I normally don't take Aleve. I've been on the Tylenol train lately.
I'm usually Tylenol too, but Aleve seems to help with those like back pain stuff better.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
But I've always been privy to Tylenol as well. That's always been like my go-to. Yeah. But the nice part about Aleve is that you only have to take it every 12 hours too.
True.
You don't have to take it like every 6 hours. So
yeah. But yeah, I've been icing it on and off, and that seems to be helping. So
I'm
fingers crossed that it will get better. Thank you. But yeah,
I hate it when you have something like that and all you could think about is like how much you took your life for granted before you had it.
Every time. I'm like, I like remember like 30 minutes ago before this happened when I like, could lift up both of my hands to do my hair.
Living.
Literally. I feel so dramatic for being like, my life is over. But also I'm like, I can't drive. I can't function. Like, I hate this. So
every time I get sick, it's like that. I'm like, remember the days. Don't you? And I'm like telling myself, don't you ever take yourself for granted again. Don't you ever take your health for granted again. And then you forget.
Inevitably do. Yes. Yes. 100%. So it's fine. It will be fine.
Well, I was telling Mickey right before we started recording that I did get Winnie's DNA results back, but I am way too impatient. I am couldn't so excited. Wait to do it live on the air. So I did have to look at what they were, but I have Winnie right here, and I'm going to just put her in the camera so that everybody can remember what she looks like before I reveal
her little bangs.
The DNA results.
She's such a cutie.
So I was very surprised. She's so cute. She really just loves.
She's like a little tiny gray teddy bear.
Yes, I think she looks a little like fox-like, cartoon-like.
Yes.
Okay, so for reference, everybody, I got Winnie from a shelter, and I'm sorry, she's uncomfortable. I'm gonna let her go.
Mom,
sorry, baby. Oh, thank you for the kisses. Thank you for the kisses.
So sweet.
The shelter that I got her from told me that she was surrendered by a family who had a purebred female Shih Tzu who got pregnant with an unknown male dog.
Okay.
So as far as I have known all these years, she has been half Shih Tzu and then half something else, terrier.
Perfect.
So I've been naturally calling her a Shih Tzu terrier all this time.
Oh boy.
And it checked out. She has a Shih Tzu tail. She has very Shih Tzu-like fur. She doesn't have the flat face, obviously. As you could see, she has a very pointy face, but she's sweet like a Shih Tzu. Like, she's cuddly like a Shih Tzu.
So cute.
Spoiler alert, she is 0% Shih Tzu.
I had a feeling that was coming. Yeah. Stop.
They lied to me. She tricked me. Winnie tricked me this whole time. Well, she bamboozled me.
What is she?
Winnie is 47%, almost 50% Pomeranian.
What?
Winnie is half Pomeranian. She's almost 30%, like 28% or something like that. Poodle, which does not surprise me as much because a lot of small dogs have poodle in them. But yeah, so 30%. So she's a Pomapoo. That's a Pomapoo. People pay top dollar for those dogs.
You got one from the
shelter. She is, and then she's about 10% rat terrier. Which I would have thought more like 60% rat terrier. Rat terriers are, I mean, I knew she had some terrier in her. Rat terriers, they're short-haired dogs. They look absolutely nothing like Winnie.
Oh, okay.
They look a little bit like Jack Russells, I would say. They have like pointy ears. Okay. They're like small, very alert dogs.
Cute.
Yeah.
I'm going to look it up.
She's just like one on her back for me to pet her belly over here.
Oh. Yeah, this looks nothing like her.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this little girl is half Pomeranian. My mom was like, well, then her mom must have been full breed Pomeranian, not Shih Tzu.
Yeah. That's so interesting.
And it does, so the tail does make sense. Pomeranians still have the flippy tail.
Okay.
And then, but they often have pointy ears. And then they are also like really, Pomeranians are also very loyal to their one human, which checks out. Winnie is incredibly loyal, incredibly attached, like fifth limb is what I call her. Yeah. And then, so that also checks out. And then the barking checks out as well. The Pomeranians do bark quite a bit. They're very yappy, very alert dogs. That's their job, is to tell you when something's there. So that checks out as well. I'm just looking at her. The fur is weird. I've never seen a gray, but I did Google a gray Pomapoo. Yeah. And if you Google image that, the dogs there do look very similar to that.
Okay, hold on. I'm Googling that. Oh my God. This looks exactly like Winnie. Aww. Okay, that's really cute.
So strange. It's just I've also been shaving her at the groomers all this time because she has a single coat, but like, you do not shave Pomeranians, right? They have double coats and it would ruin their coat
I know.
to shave them. But I didn't know that she was, and she's always, to me, she doesn't shed, so that usually means they have a single coat.
Oh, got it.
And the groomers she's never had an issue with it, but yeah, it's so weird because I was like, well, if she's a Shih Tzu, she could get shaved.
Yeah. Huh. I mean,
so
wow.
I can't get over it. Every time I see her, I'm just like, are you my little Pomapoo? Or are you my little Pomeranian? What are you doing? Because I've been living 6 full years with her, not knowing that.
That's adorable.
Wow. Yeah.
Do you feel like you know her better now?
I feel like I know her a little less because I've been going under this assumption. Fair. The other thing I don't understand is where she gets her digging drive from. Because she is obsessed with digging. Yeah. If she has an area in my parents' house when we visit them that she's allowed to dig in.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that.
If you sit there with her, she will just do that for hours if you let her. She'll just dig and dig and dig and dig until her paws are sore. I don't let her do that, of course. Yeah, but obviously. It's so good for her brain. She loves it. And then when we're inside, if there's a blanket or something, she'll dig in the blanket or dig in the couch.
That's so cute.
Like, dig, 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 dig. So I don't know where that came from, but maybe it's her terrier.
Yeah.
But
interesting.
I don't know. So that's Winnie.
Oh, that's so exciting that you know now. Thank you for sharing that with us, Hannah.
Of course. Thank you guys for caring at all.
Isn't it so funny though? Because like, I remember when we got Olivia's DNA results, we were just perplexed about like what kind of dog she could possibly be, because she doesn't look like anything. She looks like such a weird little mutt, like, mixed breed dog.
Right.
And so when we got her DNA results, then I did the same thing where I Googled, like the mix that she has. And then I found a dog that looked exactly like her. And I was like, where was this whole time that I was trying to understand? And I feel like Winnie is kind of that same thing where like you Google it and immediately I'm like, oh, that's Winnie, right? That's so funny.
The other thing too is I found a sibling of hers on
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, on the app because it does the relatives now, right? And they were like, we found somebody they share 50% DNA, which means that it's a relative, that it must be a direct relative. Yeah. So I know. So I messaged this person, and I know her dog from the litter had a specific health issue, and I know that because the shelter called me like 3 years ago and said, hey, one of Winnie's sisters got diagnosed with so-and-so. It's like a genetic disease. Okay. Like they should be okay, but this dog ended up in the ER. You might want to just go get her blood tested and stuff.
Okay.
For as a preemptive measure. So I did. I went and I got an entire blood panel to make sure and to see if she was like predisposed to whatever this is. I could not tell you what it's called. It's a long medical name. So I recognized that. I think that's why they got their DNA test, and they talked about it in their bios. So because they shared 50% DNA, I like messaged this person, and I was just like, hey, I sent the sweetest message. I was, smiley faces and explanation points because I wanted to come off super friendly, and I was just like, hey, I think our dogs are siblings. Just curious, did you get her in this year or whatever? And I said this whole paragraph, and she just goes, yes, I did. That's it.
Oh.
No explanation point. No smiley, which is just like, I am 99% sure it's probably a very perfectly nice person that just doesn't.
Yes.
Is not expressive in text, but it was just so weird. They were like, okay, apparently you are not interested in swapping pictures of our dogs or anything like that.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is that it's probably like a boomer or something, like an older person, because that reminds me so much of the way that like my parents and grandparents sent text messages with like periods and like no emphasis, no smiley face. And so like if you aren't familiar with that particular person, then you're like, are you mad at me? Right. Like, why are you being so short with me? Hopefully it's just that and not somebody being a jerk.
I don't think they would have responded if they were.
Fair. That's true.
It's just that I was like hoping that like, I'm like, okay, we don't have to meet up for a doggy play date or anything, but I was just hoping for like maybe a photo of her dog and we could like exchange photos so that I could see what one of her siblings looked like. Yeah. And she was like completely uninterested in talking to me. So I was like, okay. Then. That's your prerogative, I suppose.
That's her choice, God love her.
I was just like slightly, I was just, a little embarrassed because it's like really awkward to like.
You're like, I'm sorry I reached out then.
I know. Exactly.
Wow.
So, anywho's, should we move on to a slightly sadder?
Yes, I know. Yeah.
Chit chat.
Let's.
We do feel like we need to just mention this to everybody. Since a lot of our audience is not in the anti-MLM space as much as I am, you probably would not have heard about this. But if you've listened to our previous episodes, we've talked about a network marketing. She calls herself the number one network marketer in the world, multi-millionaire on very high up in Prove It, named Jessie Lee Ward. We've talked about her in the past because we had stuff to say about her refusing treatment when she was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. Yeah. And Mickey and I had always said, well, of course, that's her prerogative. If she wants, however she wants to treat her own cancer, that's totally up to her. Yeah. But we had an issue with her advertising coffee enemas and things to her very, very large audience of hundreds of thousands of people, as if you can cure cancer without any treatment. With
supplements.
And that was the summary. And on September 16th, which was a couple days ago, it's the 19th when we're recording this, and Jessie Lee sadly passed away the other day. We don't know that much information, as I'm sure is expected. It makes sense. Yeah. The only thing I've heard is that there's a rumor going around. I don't know if this is true, but there is a very, very wide rumor going around that she did not die directly from cancer, but she had a kidney infection or a kidney stone that sent her into septic shock.
Oh.
And that's why it went south and she passed away so quickly.
Oh, God.
I'm frustrated still, though, with the medical misinformation that's going around because, of course, her followers are just taking that as, well, the doctor, then she didn't die from cancer. She died from medical malpractice because they didn't catch it, or saying that she did cure her cancer. She cured it completely, but then the doctor was the one that should have checked out when she had a UTI or whatever. And I don't know what happened. I wasn't there. I'm not her family. I have no business knowing what happened. However, I would really like to implore people not to spread misinformation like that, because you don't know any better than I do. And the likelihood is that if she didn't have cancer, people are more prone to things like that with cancer.
Yeah.
The really, really sad part, I don't think I've told Mickey this yet, but 10 days before she passed on September 5th, she had posted a update on her TikTok, and then she had a live a few days before she passed where she was talking about her PET scan results, and how her traditional oncologist looked at her PET scan and was telling her how her scans were looking clear, the cancer was shrinking, and how everything was looking better. And Jessie Lee literally said in that video that, guys, your body wants to heal itself. Guys, my holistic stuff is working.
Okay.
But then she went on to say how much stomach pain she had been in and how she was having a mysterious pain that she was really nervous about. But the doctor was saying her PET scan looked good. Schedule another one for 6 months. While other doctors were allegedly telling her that she literally was not going to see October because of the way this was progressing.
Oh, God.
And I think, again, it's just that positive thinking, like nitpicking of info that she was doing. And I don't know if because of the PET scan, I don't know what the really sad thing. I'm sorry. I'm like emotional about this because
fair. It's sad.
I was following her so closely on all this and I was rooting for her. I think the reason is because I feel like I would have liked her as a person if she wasn't in the field that she was in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if she was not an MLMer. At all. I just feel like she's just one of the most motivated, hardworking people I think I've ever followed. And I just wish she had put that into something else.
Yeah. I mean, you and I talked about this privately too, but I think it's an important moment to hold in both hands, that like being a person who perpetuates MLMs, which are inherently predatory, is a shitty thing to do, right? And also that in some ways Jessie was like still a victim of this environment, right? Like I think the depths of denial that somebody has to be in to refuse cancer treatment is like pretty severe. And so like it is sad, like somebody dying is a sad thing, you know, and it's like a hard thing to watch because, you know, for better or for worse, like she's a person, and like it is sad and kind of scary to think about the pain that she was in before she died, you know?
Yes. So,
yeah.
And I just really wish, I think also what kills me is that I think I just wanted her to snap out of it. I wanted her so badly to like see like, okay, maybe I should listen to the doctors, and she could have what if she had just, you know, and she could have had more time to spend with her family and loved ones and stuff.
Yeah, which is also
like
sad.
You said, it's like in spite of the things that I didn't agree with, nobody deserves that.
Yeah,
nobody deserves that. And what she went through was just awful. And I just feel so much for her family and how devastating that must have been. Yeah, it just must. I mean, regardless of the circumstances, it must have been.
Yeah, it's
so hard, so.
It's sad. I think the other thing that is difficult about this situation are the people that are really bought into this holistic healing thing that she was selling up until the very
they're shocked that she passed.
Yeah, and like that also makes me sad. You know, like how many other people are potentially making these detrimental choices about their own health and their lives because she spread this misinformation and disinformation, you know? So it's like, it's not an isolated like harm that's being caused, which is also sad, you know? So it's a hard thing.
Right.
It's a hard thing.
Well, on one of the posts, I saw another YouTuber that I I know of him, and he was like, Jessie Lee didn't die from cancer. She died from medical malpractice. That was literally his words. And I knew that creator had cancer as well.
Oh boy.
In the past, got treatment, but was also doing holistic too. And it's just so frustrating. It's just frustrating. I just keep trying to remember I can't control what people, they're not going to change their mind. And I just, oh God, it's just so sad. It's just so sad all the way around.
Yeah, it's a hard thing.
So, I don't know. I'm probably talking too much about it. Like, honestly, I should probably just say condolences to her family and just leave it at that because...
Fair enough.
You know, it'll just, Oh, I just can't.
It's human to be affected by stuff, you know?
Yeah. This, I know. Hers, like, you know when somebody close dies and you get, like, in tune with your own mortality because like you feel that way more than like a random person that you don't know.
Yes. Yeah.
This gave me that feeling even though I don't know her, never met her. I still had several days of like this weird, I don't want to call it grief because it didn't change. I didn't need to like take a day or anything.
Fair.
Like I honestly did not know her, never met her, never interacted with her. But for some reason, it just like, I don't know, just really shocked me and just really, I think part of me was just like, maybe she will pull through.
Yeah.
And, you know, and anyway, sorry, did you have anything? I talked a lot. Did you have anything else to add?
In terms of like opening stuff, like, no, I don't think so.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant anything else about Jessie Lee. But that's totally fine
no,
too.
I don't think so.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's just sad.
Okay, well, shall we get into our topics then today?
Do you want to go first or am I going first?
How about you go first? Because I've been talking for the entire intro.
Fair enough.
And I need a break from talking.
Fair enough. I think yours is also slightly less depressing than mine, so it'll be good to end the episode on a higher note. Because what I'm talking about today is a bit heavy. We should probably put a brief trigger warning here for SA and other traumas of that type, because we are talking about Tim Ballard, which for those of you who don't know, Tim Ballard is Did
you say it had something to do with children too?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Like CSA kind of stuff, actually. Good point.
Oh, CSA. Oh, I missed that one. Sorry.
No, I didn't say that yet. Yeah. I said
you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So brief,
just so everybody knows.
Brief trigger warning for SA and CSA. But yeah, we're talking about somebody named Tim Ballard, which for those of you who don't know, earlier this year there was a movie that made its way to box offices called Sound of Freedom. I actually made a video about it on my main channel because it was awful, but the whole movie was
not a documentary, right?
No, it was
fictional movie.
Yes, it was very much a scripted, dramatized, over-exaggerated movie. Not a documentary. The whole thing is that a lot of the press coverage for it was talking about how it's like based on a true story. But even in their own promotional material, it literally said based on a true story, except, and then in parentheses, except for the parts that aren't. Yeah, that's the appropriate reaction. Thank you, Hannah.
What?
So
that doesn't make any sense. Okay.
There's some helpful background here also. The Sound of Freedom, like I said, is a scripted, dramatized movie that was originally picked up by Disney and another movie studio who ultimately dropped it. The project didn't make its way to fruition for two separate, pretty large budget studios, and then eventually got picked up by this really small studio that was like mostly Christian oriented films and media. And that's how he ended up getting the film made. But Tim Ballard was is the former CEO of a company, a non-governmental organization called Operation Underground Railroad, which is a human trafficking nonprofit, essentially. So Tim Ballard was the CEO of this organization, and the movie was supposed to follow this dramatized story of like true events from one of they're like weird sting operations that him and his team would go on in foreign countries to supposedly save children who were victims of trafficking. Does this at all sound familiar to you, Hannah?
No, it does not.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever heard of this movie. However, I'm tracking.
Yes.
Wait. Like,
okay, great.
So, sorry. So, but was like the profits of the movie going to go into his...
No.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Like you'd think you'd make a movie like that so that all the proceeds of the movie could go into his organization.
You would think.
that would make the most sense to me.
But they didn't. No, the proceeds, as far as I'm aware, went directly to him or like whatever,
yeah. And you've seen the actual movie, right? Did you actually watch the movie?
No.
Or did you not want to get
I watched little snippets of it. At the time that I talked about it, it was in theaters only, and I didn't want to like give support to this movie because there was already a lot of weird conspiracy theory stuff happening. So also helpful background here is that the movie had this program set up. Like Operation Underground Railroad is the company that Tim Ballard was the CEO for, right?
Yeah.
And they set up like this program essentially for people to pay it forward, to like buy movie tickets for other people who can't afford to see it, is like the rationale, right? So like what was happening is that people were basically calling up like, your local Cinemark, your local AMC, whatever, and saying, I want to buy 5 tickets, 10 tickets to the 2 p.m. showing of Sound of Freedom. The thought process being that if I buy these tickets, then like someone else can just go up to the box office and say, I would like 2 free tickets to 2 p.m. at the Sound of Freedom. Except that that's not how fucking movie theaters work, right? Like that's not, that's not a thing.
Most people could tell you that. Yeah.
Yes. So there were a lot of people who were absolutely fervent supporters of this film that were doing this, except that, again, movie theaters don't have a like pay it forward program.
Yeah.
So the end result was that whole showings of this film would be almost completely empty because people would buy these tickets and then not show up with the hope that someone else would take the seat, right? So this led to a conspiracy theory that movie theaters were not allowing people to buy tickets to this film because they were trying to suppress this message about human trafficking. Very much the QAnon pipeline of like everybody is in on a big secret where everybody is a child abuser and human trafficker, and like we're the, big Hollywood is trying to suppress this message that our
Hillary Clinton
yes that our poor good guy Tim Ballard is getting his movie suppressed. And so there was all of that conspiracy theory mumbo jumbo going on at the time, and so I was like, I'm good. I don't really want to go to a showing of this film with like one other QAnon wacko and like, waste my money and time. So, but I talked about the film because I watched a couple of snippets that were available online. And then also there was a lot of media coverage from people who actually work in victim advocacy for human trafficking, people who, work for real nonprofits, for real governmental organizations, have had the training and like the very specific credentials to be actually helpful advocates for victims of this kind, right? These people were very heavily criticizing the film for sensationalizing human trafficking and representing it as something that it isn't ultimately. The film really heavily leans on this belief that human trafficking is something that happens to these helpless, unsuspecting, innocent children in your suburban neighborhood, and if you don't buckle your kid into the shopping cart at Walmart, then someone will just kidnap them and run off with them and sell them into sex trafficking in a third world country, which by and large is not true, right? Like
not how it works.
That does happen to some people, which is obviously a terrible thing, but the vast majority of human trafficking that's perpetrated is actually carried out by somebody that the victim knows and trusts, which is a real problem, right? Like we really need to address
just like
that.
SA.
Correct.
How it's rarely somebody in the bushes that just pops out and grabs you.
Yeah.
It's usually somebody you know.
Yes. Same thing with CSA.
Yep.
This myth that we have about a stranger lurking in an alleyway.
In the bathroom.
Yes. With ill intent is just simply a fallacy in most cases.
Yeah.
Really what happens is that it's
very rare.
Ill-intended person who abuses their relationship with this vulnerable person to coerce them into a situation that ultimately victimizes them. So the film was catching a lot of heat for that also. So we talked about it on the channel. But
so the movie's plot was way more focused on just random people, random kids getting scooped up out of nowhere and then just taken off into sex trafficking, fear-mongering.
Yes.
Basically.
The opening sequence in the film is literally like this dark warehouse kind of situation that depicts children being placed into shipping containers and then shipped off to a third world country for the purpose of being trafficked, which is, again, that's a fallacy. That's not a real thing.
Yeah. Sounds like something out of The Walking Dead.
Yes. Yeah. The comparison that a lot of people have made is comparing like Indiana Jones or James Bond to like the actual real life of like British secret security or an archaeologist, right? Like that's not at all reflective of what those real people's lives look like. So this film took a lot of criticism, and one of the things that stuck out to me in, you know, the sort of media fallout around the film was the accusations that were made against the actual people who run the organization, Operation Underground Railroad. Tim Ballard is the CEO, or was the CEO of that company, and allegedly, according to reports from folks who had attended what are essentially tryouts to join this organization, the conduct there was concerning. There was a pretty flagrant disregard for screening the staff to make sure that they were safe people. Like, for example, anybody who's ever worked in childcare is very familiar with needing a fingerprint clearance card.
I worked in childcare.
Yes. So you know that like there are many hoops to jump through to make sure.
You have to go get your fingerprints registered with the government.
Yes.
Literally to work at a daycare.
Yes. Well, and you have to do that, you know, every couple of years. Like you have to continually renew that clearance because they have to run a background check to make sure that nothing has happened in the last like 5 years or 7 years or whatever.
I didn't have that, but
oh really? In Arizona we do anyways.
Maybe in Arizona, yeah. Well, I mean, your fingerprints are your fingerprints. They don't have to retake your fingerprints.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
They didn't do more than one background check, but the only thing they had us do was we had to get retested for TB every now and then.
Yes,
and we had to get like vaccines and stuff.
Yeah,
but actually getting in, it wasn't hard to get hired, but the background checks and everything, like definitely a lot of, I think I even did a drug test, but I can't remember. But a lot of
there's a lot of hoops like to jump through. And like here in Arizona, especially like for teachers and other childcare workers and stuff, they do like every, I think it's 7 years, 5 years, something like that. They require you to just like re-up all of your stuff and make sure again that you're like a safe person and whatever. So the accusations about the recruitment process for Operation Underground Railroad were that first of all, they were conducting like pretty shoddy psych evals. They were like not really screening these people to make sure they were mentally well or in a good place to be immersed in what is actually a very traumatizing environment. And they were also not screening people for safety. Like there was not really a concerted effort to make sure that these people were who they said they were, that they didn't have a history of, misconduct, that they were, safe people to be interacting one-on-one with trafficking victims. Because that was their whole...
I was going to say, this organization is supposed to be preventing and reducing... specifically childhood trafficking?
Yes. So their whole shtick, get this, Hannah, their whole shtick is that they would literally go on these weird sting operations in foreign countries. They would take, I don't know, a couple dozen of their people and suit up in these like fake FBI outfits. They had like the whole bulletproof vest and firearms in some cases, all number, like just picture like a, like a cosplay of somebody who's like in the military.
I can picture it.
Like that whole thing, right? And then they would go, and some of the reports were that, like, for example, they would go to, what they deemed a third world country and ask around the locals for like how to procure sex work, and then show up at this place and demand from the owner that we want younger workers, like younger women, until eventually this person would produce a child, at which time they would then like close in and like,
What did they do though? They didn't live there. They weren't part of the law enforcement there.
So
what?
Supposedly they would partner with local law enforcement to then arrest these people.
Okay.
But a lot of the criticism that they drew for this was that if anything, you're just drumming up a demand for child trafficking, because if the demand didn't exist there in the first place, then you're just essentially creating it by showing up and pretending to be, asking for these services. Like, you don't know that this person didn't just like disappear for an hour and like go kidnap a child to meet your needs specifically, right? Like, this is not the way.
Sorry, it's not funny. I'm laughing at how,
but like, it's absurd,
stupid that is.
Yes, yeah, it is like kind of funny in like this sad, like sarcastic way, because like
not in the like there's victims. It's just stupid. I'm laughing at them.
Yes,
like the guys doing this.
Like, this is so asinine.
Yeah, wouldn't that just put the kids in more danger to not be doing it?
Correct.
To like just be all of a sudden like, oh, this guy wants you, or whatever it is, and then they come and they're like, freeze, Buster, we got you, and then like, I don't know. Yeah, that doesn't seem like the best way to go about it.
No.
I'm not saying our current law enforcement knows the best way to go about it, most likely, but like also there's got to be a better way than that.
Yes. Well, and there are a lot of...
I mean, shouldn't we just be opening more shelters and places for people to go if they escape?
Yes. Which is one of the largest criticisms that they drew, is that in order to really effectively prevent human trafficking, we have to address the factors that cause people to be trafficked in the first place, which by and large is poverty. Right? People who have food insecurity, resource insecurity, who have housing insecurity, who, generally speaking, like, especially for children who are trafficked because, like, for example, their parents are trying to get across the border into a safer country. Sometimes it's not feasible for the adults to make it, so they'll hand off the child to who they think is a safe person, only to find out that person has ill intent, right? But like, we need...
They're desperate.
Yes, we need to address the root cause, which is that these people are trying to flee an unsafe environment and protect their child. And if they had better resources to effectively do this without taking such drastic choices, then this child wouldn't have ended up in this situation in the first place. So really, our work in terms of like effectively decreasing human trafficking is about improving people's quality of life globally, rather than centering our focus on snatching one kid from one country in one situation and spending lots and lots of fucking money, like thousands, maybe millions of dollars, probably over the course of the lifetime of this organization, flying back and forth and doing all this stuff. Yeah.
So much of, I made a Patreon video about this, but it's so ridiculously terrible that I did not make it a public YouTube video, but about Peter Scully, who, huge trigger warning if people go look him up. Like, I don't advise going to look it up. It's one of the worst cases of all time, so I won't get into details, but he was a trafficker as well, and he was like the video route on like selling it on that way. Yeah. And he got it was a third world country. I want to say Malaysia. It was one of those countries where poverty was rampant, and he went to an area where poverty was even more rampant, and he would go to parents and say, hey, I can get your children work, I can give them a little job, and they can send home money to you, but then in the meantime, I'm going to feed them and shelter them. And the parents would say, like, I mean, they didn't really have a choice but to try to trust this stranger who was hoping they could get, like, he promised schooling, getting them free schooling so that their kid could, like, have a much better life than they did. And then that's how he would get them. Like, he got them with the parents' consent and then would do something, you know.
Yeah, awful.
So it's like, things. That's like, so that's true though. But like, if poverty were not the issue in the first place, if other parents had the resources. Where they weren't as desperate, it's like kind of like giving homeless people a $5 bill. Like, it's a very nice thing to do. But it doesn't, that's like that's like a Band-Aid on the symptom. It's not getting to the root cause of the issue.
Yeah, I think that's like a perfect example of like basically what's going on here. So all of that to say, the organization generally and the film were like not well received outside of this very niche corner of the population that's
of conspiracy theorists
that's very bought into the QAnon belief system, that's very, or I guess conspiracy theory rather, that's very bought into the, like, you know, government conspiracy theory side of things. And so the hard thing about it too is that, like, arguing with a conspiracy theorist is impossible, right? Because you tell them the truth and then they tell you that's exactly what they'd want you to say, and like it's it's circular.
That's always the argument. It's just going around in circles. There's no point.
However, one of the things that I also wanted to point out about Tim Ballard specifically is that at one of the trainings. There was an insider who spoke to Vice, and then Vice did this whole very long write-up. If I can find the link for it, I'll put it in the description for this episode. But Vice did this really long write-up where this insider spoke about some of the things that were specifically said to new recruits that were alarming, one of which was a...
sorry, pause before you go on.
Yeah.
What's a recruit?
Like
somebody who's going to work for the company to go do these rescue missions?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So they basically sat everybody down after they finished their training and said, okay, we have some advice for you guys since you're new here. Like, here's how things work, being part of our organization, right? And one of the things that they told these new people was a blanket statement about if you're ever tempted to do something with one of the victims, you have to come to us right away and tell us that. And they said, many men have come to us and told us this, and we respect them so much for telling us this so that we could get them out of there and keep people safe. Uh-huh.
What?
Uh-huh.
Wait.
Yeah. Apparently, employees of this organization wanting to assault victims of human trafficking is so much of a problem that we have a blanket statement about it at our little recruitment events.
And they're not doing background checks and they're just hiring these people willy-nilly.
Yep. Mostly what they cared about was whether you could afford to finance your own travel and lodging costs to get there.
There it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like a giant virtue signaling with very negative consequences.
Yes.
And it also sounds like it literally sounds like those people that make Catch a Predator YouTube videos.
Yes.
Where they trap pedophiles and talk them into them, I'm a child, and get them to meet them just to go viral because then they gotcha.
Yes.
Literally. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like grown adult men.
It sounds very much like that.
Yes. Grown adult men playing pretend, especially because a lot of them,
the hero. Yeah.
A lot of them were retired military and retired police.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Gross.
Just toxic masculinity on parade. So
I was going to say, if they had done proper background checks, that would not even be a thing.
Correct.
That would not be something that you would have to even.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Does it get worse?
Yeah. Yeah, it gets a lot worse. So that all happened a couple of months ago. I think the film has sort of come and gone. It's not in box offices anymore that I'm aware of. And then today, news dropped that the former CEO, Tim Ballard, of Operation Underground Railroad, he resigned from the organization in June, around the time that the film was getting a lot of media coverage, for unknown reasons. People assumed that he had resigned because of the negative attention the film got. As it turns out, he resigned because allegations of sexual harassment surfaced in which he was harassing female colleagues. Yeah. It's always a projection.
Timothy.
It's always a projection.
It's always a projection.
Isn't that disappointing?
Okay. But to be clear, none of his accusers are children.
Not his. That's another thing we're going to get to. But as it stands...
this isn't over.
No, it gets worse. So as it stands currently, Tim Ballard has not been accused of sexual misconduct or sexual harassment with anyone who is a minor. However, worth noting that the harassment allegations are as follows. Ballard would take female colleagues with him on these operations in other countries for the purpose of pretending to be his wife, right? The whole thing is sort of predicated on this, we're undercover sort of thing, right? So he would take these female colleagues and tell them that their job was to pretend to be his wife while they were there to fool the traffickers.
Oh my God.
He also apparently coerced these women into sleeping in the same bed as him and to showering with him to fool the traffickers. Yeah. There's also allegations that he sent inappropriate photos of himself to his female colleagues with fake tattoos, by the way, which is almost more embarrassing. I don't know.
Fake tattoos?
Yes. He covered himself in fake tattoos for one of these operations to I don't know, look like a bad guy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's a meme, Hannah.
This wasn't so serious and devastating.
Yes.
I'm getting so much secondhand embarrassment for him.
I know.
He sounds
insufferable.
So pathetic.
Yes.
Like oh my God, he seriously, like, dads that, like, hey kids, what's grooving
literally
on today?
Yes.
You feel? Ya haps? Am I one of the cool ones? Like, that's seriously what he sounds like he's trying to be. Like, this is what criminals do, right?
Yes.
Criminals have tattoos.
Oh my God, it's so embarrassing.
Oh my God.
Like, my face is actually turning red from the secondhand embarrassment.
Yeah. Like, I know that's the least concerning thing about this.
Of course.
But, like, is anybody surprised then in the end that
exactly. Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I also just want to point out, by the way, that this man, in doing so, first of all, was harassing and victimizing women, which is an unforgivable offense in my opinion. But second of all, was also cheating on his wife by, you know, trying to coerce these women, or, you know, coercing these women into these things. And he's also like a very vocal advocate. He's a former advisor for the Trump administration, by the way. But he's a very vocal advocate for outlawing gay marriage and, you know, passing legislation that marginalizes queer people because it's like against God's design and all of this stuff. Right. And like,
well, he probably thinks they're all predators.
Again, it's always
the
a
projection.
Irony. It's always like the call is always coming from inside the house.
Yes.
So.
Oh my gosh.
That news dropped at the same time that allegations surfaced about one of the other men who was employed at Operation Underground Railroad, who has been accused of forcibly fondling a minor during the course of one of these operations. Yeah. His explanation for this is that he was forced to
I was gonna say,
prove that he wasn't a narc, except that
I'm sure there was a good reason.
There are fucking audio clips of him joking about it with his fucking friends.
Oh.
Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah. Making jokes about, like, don't tell our bishop or something, and joking about, like, how funny they thought this whole situation was. So that's not really seeming like a good defense, in my opinion. So yeah, if that's not a thanks we hate it, I don't know what is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I knew the second you said that he was gonna say that he was like, oh, it was to prove to the bad guys that I was really one of them.
Which also, like, yeah. Can we talk about the fact...
Do police officers, when they're undercover, do they snort coke to prove to the drug dealer that, no, they just catch them at that point? Like,
but also, too,
liar.
Can we talk about the fact that if your organization, which, to be clear, is a non-governmental organization, you guys are just whole-ass civilians, and in my opinion, should really act like it.
Vigilante.
But if your whole-ass organization is requiring you to victimize children that you're supposedly supposed to be protecting, then, like, I don't know, maybe you're doing it wrong. Like, even if that were true, like, maybe we should retool our fucking approach here, bud. Because, like, that's not really working. Just like,
and maybe your approach is also not great if you're having so many people have to tell you, hey, I can't be trusted around women or children.
Literally. Also, can we talk about how fucking bonkers bananas it is? The idea that anybody would find themselves sexually aroused to the degree that they don't trust themselves to not engage or, like, act on that with a victim of trafficking.
I know.
Like, I can't think of anything less arousing.
Then you're literally just a closet predator. Like, and you're trying to, like, pretend like you're not, because
that's what I'm saying.
Oof.
So anyways, I wanted to talk about that because, first of all, I think it's important to be aware of that people who are often the most vocally outspoken about these types of issues in ways that we know are, you know, counterintuitive and bad, oftentimes have some skeletons in their closet. But also because I just feel really vindicated because a lot of the QAnon crazy comments on my video are about how I'm secretly a pedophile and
how you must be the pedophile then.
Yeah.
And then you're like,
whoops.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Who were you idolizing again?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sure they'll say that it's not true, though.
Oh, of course. No, it could never be true.
I'm sure they'll say that because accusers, they're all just, Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just collectively all the women around the world are just collectively in on it together to accuse men and ruin their lives on purpose.
Of course. That's all we have to do all day, basically.
Yeah.
So he's also planning on making
sarcasm for anybody out there that's not good at reading sarcasm.
Yes, that's clear sarcasm. He's also planning on making a run for a Senate seat in Utah, by the way. So love that for us.
Gross.
Yeah.
Maybe he should be in jail.
You would think. But
which, honestly, though, hey, some good news in the Me Too movement where Danny Masterson just got convicted.
I know.
Well, he had already been convicted.
Yeah.
But getting sentenced to 30 to life is
some
of the best
win.
News, I think. Yeah. Yay.
Hell yeah.
Yay. Get that man off the streets.
Yes.
Because the streets are a safer place
1,000%.
without him.
Yes.
Jesus. So
everywhere is a safer place without him. So.
Yeah. Gross. So we're not even going to get into Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher, but I'm sure you guys can all know what our feelings are without us saying it.
Yeah.
So, all right. Should we talk about something else?
I think we ought to.
Should we talk about something a little happier?
Yes, please do.
Okay. This is a funner topic.
Okay.
We need to talk about MrBeast just a little bit.
Okay.
And you guys, so they don't know our background with MrBeast, and I want to share really quick. So, for context, I don't want to speak for you, but my understanding is that Mickey has never really been a huge fan of MrBeast.
Not particularly.
Do you want to give your general feelings on?
I mean, listen, it's not that I'm a MrBeast hater necessarily, but I also am just not a MrBeast fan in the sense that I feel that I've talked about this before when we talked about the Lizzo issue. I just generally am very distrustful of anybody who has that level of a following and an influence, and especially somebody who is rich beyond sense like that. And I know that there's a very particular way he manages to fund these very expensive videos that he does, and it's not just celebrity wealth, crazy millionaire, billionaire kind of people. That's fair. But just generally speaking, it's not really my thing to idolize really rich and famous people. I'm just very jaded and bitter.
You side eye. You're a side eye of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's talk about it a little bit today because he's been in the news quite a bit lately. Well, at least in the YouTuber space news. And so for context for everybody with me, I've always been a somewhat fan of him. I'm definitely not his target demographic, but I do watch some of his videos. I do enjoy some of his videos. I've been subscribed for a long time. I just recently unsubscribed, though, I will admit. And it's not because I'm I think he's a terrible person or anything like that. I just don't think I'm just not quite aligned with him. And so let's first and foremost, MrBeast, I'll say it, your chocolate sucks.
Oh, it's so bad. Oh my God. It's so bad.
Feastables, I might get sued for this. But in my opinion, I have tried. Listen, I don't know how you fuck up milk chocolate. But MrBeast has managed to fuck up milk chocolate.
So
the milk chocolate bars do not taste good. They don't taste like milk chocolate. No. They taste like weird, cheap, semi-sweet chocolate. So I don't know.
Also,
that's my first grief.
Just really quick, can we also just talk about the fact that this is coming from two Americans who the rest of the world shits on our chocolate game as it is because chocolate in the United States has a lot more of a particular acid in it or something. It makes it more sour than chocolate in the rest of the United States. So we're the last people to be shocked and horrified by bad tasting chocolate. And even we are this is disgusting.
Really cheap. Yeah.
Yes.
It's not
I can
good.
eat a commercial Hershey's milk chocolate bar and be perfectly fine with that. But
I love Hershey's
MrBeast chocolate was legendarily bad. You and I literally both took a bite of it and we're
ew, what is this?
We didn't even swallow it. That's how bad it is.
The dark chocolate isn't good.
Oh no.
The regular one isn't good. The milk chocolate one, none of it's good.
No.
I'm sorry,
Don't
MrBeast.
like it.
Don't like your chocolate.
Not good.
Okay. I also want to preface this with Mickey and I went to VidSummit last year. We went to VidSummit 2022, September 2022 in LA. And that was the first time Mickey and I got together in person.
Yes.
And I don't think we have any regrets about that because we had so much fun together. And that was the first time we got to hang out in person and everything. However, again, unpopular opinion in the YouTube guru world, VidSummit itself waste of money.
Trash.
It was $1,000 for that ticket, and literally, let us tell you why.
Trash.
So I know, and I feel terrible because, like, I do like a lot of people in that space. Like, I'm a huge fan of Nick Nimmin. I think he's, like, the best YouTube guru on the platform, in my opinion, you know? And he's always very much involved in this. But the guy who puts on VidSummit, Daryl Eves, I'm not a fan. Daryl Eves,
I'll say it. I'm a Daryl Eves hater.
Risky stuff right now. Listen, and I, like, you know me, like, I do not like putting any beef out there with other YouTubers ever.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to in this case because listen.
I don't like it.
First of all, the first thing he did was preach. Pretty much. He comes out to introduce the conference and he immediately mentions his religious beliefs.
Yep.
Fine. Whatever, but also not appropriate for this.
No.
Second of all, he then goes on to plug his extremely religious TV show that he produces that perpetuates the classic white version of Jesus.
Yes. More than once, by the way.
The entire conference had advertisements for his Christian, uber Christian TV show. I don't care if you're Christian. Go off. Yeah. Not appropriate for a conference when we spent $1,000 to be there.
Yes.
And all you did was then try to continue to advertise to us to give you more money.
Correct.
Yeah. And then the conference was just bad. Like, remember we saw Daryl, he was like sitting in a chair talking to somebody else, and everybody was starving and like really needed a refreshment. Correct. And the coffee and snacks were supposed to come out, and he's literally just sitting there chatting, and it's like an hour late and he's not doing anything. No. He's not working. No. And we were like, if we were putting on a conference, we would be running around making sure that everything was taken care of all the time. And I'm bitter about that. Yes. But also, the number one thing is that women were not welcome at that conference.
No, we weren't welcome, nor were we represented.
Correct. And that entire conference is literally just a MrBeast fan fest. It was all young, early 20s frat boys that wanted to be MrBeast.
Yes.
The only thing that they taught in all of the panels and all of the lessons was methods for how you should make videos like MrBeast and strategies like you.
Yeah.
Like, they had no care for other niches. No. They had no care for women in this business. No. Like, remember Emily D. Baker was supposed to be there, but she couldn't make it. I think she had COVID.
Canceled. Yeah.
That was like the one we were really excited to see, was a woman. Mm-hmm. And it's all just MrBeast and MrBeast people like them. Yes. And I did not feel welcome. And then when the thing that got me is that when one woman came forward on the app, remember we had that app that you could talk to everybody else at the conference?
It was like a conventions app.
Yes. One woman came forward and shared our same sentiment. Yes. She said, I didn't feel seen. I felt like this conference didn't benefit small YouTubers at all. Yes. It was all about how to be in this one niche. She said exactly how we felt. Yes. And everybody shit on her.
Brigaded this
Everybody
woman.
Came and attacked her, including calling out Roberto Blake.
Yes.
Including him, who also was like, well, they just blamed her. It was the MLM thing where they're like, well, you just didn't work hard enough. You're the one that needs to get something out of this because you need to have a better attitude.
Yes.
Blah, 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 blah. And they attacked her for it. I will forever be mad that we wasted so much. We should have just gotten together and hung out for a couple days, because that entire conference, but I can't say this anywhere else, because if you actually, there was nowhere to give feedback.
No.
There was nowhere. He didn't ask for feedback afterwards. No. And now it's in Texas this year because it's so much bigger, because it keeps growing. And I don't know why. Okay. Did you have any other grievances?
I have so many things to say. First of all, big agree. I just want to like paint the picture for people to be clear. Hannah and I were by no means expecting to be served like 3-course meals and like gourmet food, right? No. But like, first of all, I
didn't even know that we were going to get free lunch.
Correct.
Like, that was a surprise.
Yes. But like pre-YouTube, you actually have experience in this professional world of like conferences and like large sort of like business conventions and things like that, right? And like you and I both, as like people who exist as professionals in one capacity or another outside of YouTube, were blown the fuck away by how poorly organized this entire event was. Because again, we weren't expecting gourmet food or like, somebody be doing the most, but every single time that food was presented to conference attendees, it was like watching ants swarm a piece of candy on the sidewalk. If you weren't the first fucking person in line to get food, you didn't get anything. You didn't get coffee, you didn't get water, you didn't get a t-shirt, you didn't get a cookie, like nothing. I'm being so incredibly fucking for real when I tell you that Hannah and I literally had to elbow people out of the way at one point to get a Subway sandwich that wasn't even good, that had also been sitting out for like a hot minute.
We did get food every time though, to be fair.
Well, yes, because you and I were like staring at the app waiting for the time that the food was going to show up. If I was just like trying to get the most out of this by attending all the conferences and like, you know, figured like, oh, I'll just grab lunch when we're done with this or whatever, we would have missed food every time.
Correct.
Like the way that they organized it and like how poorly prepared they were for the number of attendees that they had, in my opinion, is just like unforgivable. Especially in like a post-COVID world, it's really not that hard to tell the venue that's hosting your conference, we need to have food doled out at like 5 or 6 or 7 different locations with, you know, like an appropriate amount of food, instead of like one place, come and get it, deal with it, right? Like that's crazy to me. I just want to paint that picture because, again, I want to be clear. We're not like upset because it was like, you know, we wanted fancy stuff.
We weren't
like, no,
served on a silver, right.
It was just like Lord of the Flies, which was really disarming, especially, again, being some of the only female and like femme presenting people there. It was like very disarming to all of a sudden have to be in close quarters with a bunch of male strangers to fight for a cookie, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I just, for reference, I was an executive assistant before this, and I have legit been to business conferences before, and I've attended them before, and actually went, even though it wasn't in my job description, I went and sat in the panels and everything, and let me tell you, it's the most productive thing of all time. It's about like, it's, you know, teaching. I mean, obviously we don't need leadership skills in YouTube quite as much, but like it was like a leadership conference and like how to be the best leader, what to do to make your team work well, to get like all this actual detailed, plausible, actionable steps of things to do. And literally every single one we went into was like, make better videos, and that was it.
I'm never going to get over how angry I am that the whole course that we attended, or like thing, actually, I don't know if you were there. I think we split up for one of them, but they had a course about thumbnail creation, which I was like, great, right? Like, I know for me, thumbnails are a thing that I struggle with. Like, I'm consistently
how could I not benefit from that?
Yeah. And so I was like, great, this is awesome. Like, we'll probably get some actionable strategies for like what works with the algorithm and like good strategies and patterns and whatever. And they literally, for the entire time that we were there, talked about the rule of thirds, which, if you're not familiar, basically like it's visually pleasing to the eye to have like, especially rectangular like thumbnails, divided up into 3 sections. So their advice was like, use 1/3 to put your face or somebody else's face, use another third to have like part of the video subject matter, and then another third of it to be background. That was it. That was their fucking advice. Like, we paid $1,000 for that fucking advice. And I was just like, this can't be real. Like, I could have Googled that. Hello?
I think that's the thing that I struggled with so much, was that it just was not, there was nothing in that conference that what I couldn't learn from a YouTube video. I think it is, they made it seem like you were going to learn secrets of the trade and get inspired and stuff like that. And I will say the good thing about it was really fun to meet other people there. It was fun to talk to other creators and everything. And I remember what's interesting is that Swell Entertainment, remember, she was there and we met Amanda. And
who's also the nicest person alive, by the way, in case anyone didn't know.
So sweet. There's pictures of us on my Instagram if anybody wants to see it. But she's the sweetest human of all time. And I watched her review of VidSummit, and she thought overall that it was good. She had the same problems as us with the food and the disorganization. But maybe we are the odd ones out in some ways. That's because her overall view of the panels and stuff, she seemed to get a better, if I remember her video correctly, she seemed to get a better impression of it than us. But I have one more complaint. As we wrap around to MrBeast here. MrBeast was at VidSummit 2022, you guys. He almost always goes. He's one of like the sponsors of this thing. He usually gives everybody lunch one day. He last year did Beast Burgers he bought Beast Burgers for everybody for lunch.
Were admittedly good, to be fair.
They were, yes, I will give credit where credit is due. I did like the Beast Burgers. I did think they were good. But MrBeast was a keynote speaker.
Yeah.
And again, for people that are not familiar with business conferences, the keynote speaker is one of the most exciting events of any conference. It's usually their quote unquote most famous, or in a regular business, it's the higher up people, the one with the most experience, stuff like that. And they're supposed to give a speech. They're not teaching you per se, but it's supposed to be a very inspirational speech about maybe a personal experience they had, maybe life advice, something like that.
Yeah.
MrBeast put 0 out of 0 effort into this. He's the keynote speaker, and mind you, we did not see MrBeast. He was at the conference, but he's so famous that he has security all the time, so he hid it out for the rest of the concert. I don't blame him for that honestly, at all.
Yeah.
He would have been mocked.
It would have been a wreck
if he tried to go anywhere. So the only time anybody ever saw him was on stage. Yeah. And so everybody came to that event because they wanted to see MrBeast. Yeah. So because he wasn't around the rest of the conference, which again, I understand. But when he did go on stage, he said, okay, well, I didn't really prepare a keynote, so we're just going to do a Q&A for my keynote speech.
They didn't even pick out questions beforehand.
That was right. That was his keynote speech. Yeah. When I tell you, and he is one of the most allegedly hardworking people in the space. He's the one that says he spends 24/7 doing YouTube and could not bother to put anything together for a conference for a room full of thousands of people that wanted to be him.
Yeah. And who spent a lot of money to be there.
And he did a Q&A.
I also feel compelled to add that his affect for every time that he made an appearance at the conference seemed decidedly disinterested, if not
very
like
much.
Outright like an attitude of contempt about having to participate.
I have better things to do.
Yes. Yeah, it felt very much
should be filming a video.
Like Daryl was trotting around his prize-winning pony for like the 15 minutes that MrBeast would put up with it, and then back to the backstage for you because it was just not
back
at all.
To the desert island for competing for a treasure chest for him. That's all. Like, he was not even there. It was weird.
The thing that's so disappointing to me too is that like in, like the social work conferences that I've attended and stuff, you're right, like the keynote is not necessarily intended to be like educational content like the rest of the breakouts, but usually there's like some really touching or transformative nuggets of wisdom, right? There's like something influential or inspiring about like a way to approach the work that you're doing, a transformative learning moment that this person experienced. That's like a cool takeaway for you as like a smaller person in this field to like center some of your practice around, right? So I was hoping for like anything, any nugget of like, I don't know, useful storytelling.
I could have written that speech for him. MrBeast was known at the very beginning for quote unquote torturing himself for views. Like one of his first viral videos, he was not going viral going gaming. He's a teenager.
Yeah.
So one of his first viral videos was him sitting in one sitting counting to like, I want to say like 1 million or something like that. And it took him hours. And he literally sat there without the camera being off counting because he did not want to, like, and he could have said, his keynote speech could have been, listen, I tortured myself because I was willing to do anything for views. So find your version of torture. Find your version of what you're going to do that others wouldn't do for a video. It doesn't have to be that, but find like your version of what you would do for your audience.
Yeah. Right? That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Curtain close. See, I just wrote a better speech for him than he could have.
With no effort, by the way.
Yeah, right. And it's just like, okay, speech giving isn't your thing or whatever.
Sure.
He's rich enough to hire somebody to help him.
Yes.
He is he's making millions of dollars a month, you guys.
Yes.
Millions and millions of dollars a month. Yeah. Most brands cannot afford a sponsorship with him because his rate is so high.
Insane.
He has money to hire somebody to help him write a speech. Like, okay. Getting back, that was the bulk of our complaints. Yeah. Sorry, unless you had something else to say.
I think that's the bulk of it.
We can come back.
I have more complaints, but this episode is not about that. So I think that covers most of it.
Well, there'll be more time to air more grievances.
Okay.
So the criticism of MrBeast is coming out. Finally, a lot of people have been kind of calling him out for doing philanthropy porn, basically, is kind of what we're calling it. Of the like, of like doing all these good things, yes, but filming it and profiting off of it, you know? And the argument, I could see it's both sides of the argument personally. I can see like, okay, but are you inspiring? First of all the people that go in the video are consenting. They all know they're going to be on film. They all know they're going to be posted to a MrBeast video. They all know that they're benefiting from his charity. Like, it's not like, at least he's not going to random homeless people on the street anymore and handing them money and filming their reaction like I think he used to do. And then also, is it inspiring other people to do good things then if you put it on camera, right? Or is it simply exploitation and philanthropy porn, like we said, right? So there's another big creator called Jacksepticeye. Have you ever heard of him? Yeah. So he did a lie detector test on somebody else's video he was a guest on. And if you haven't, have you seen the video? I'll insert it in here. But there's a clip of when Jacksepticeye is asked, do you like MrBeast? And they're both huge creators. And Jacksepticeye goes, no.
A completely unrelated question. Do you like MrBeast? No. Jack. Do you think MrBeast ruined YouTube? Yes. Now, in all honesty, Jack, why? Because it became more about views, money, and popularity than it did about having fun. You just don't think he had fun playing Squid Games? You don't think he had fun riding on yachts? Building wells in Africa? I don't know. If he had fun doing those videos, they'd be longer. We'd see the fun. Ooh. I thought you were going to get me with that one, didn't you? Who's the YouTuber you hate the most? I don't know. There's a lot of groomers and pedophiles on our platform.
Jacksepticeye says essentially like, well, he made it about money and views instead of the love of creation is essentially what his point was. And MrBeast's response, he got mad, and it was very interesting. MrBeast tweeted, but he deleted it.
Oh, no.
But of course, people screenshotted it. MrBeast had a pretty poor response. He said, so I ruined YouTube because I didn't buy a mansion and sports cars and instead invested my money into making content / focused on doing good and inspiring kids to help people. And then he says, then he's quoting Jack, if that's not his real name, but you know who I'm talking about. If he had fun, the videos would be longer, because that was one of the points Jacksepticeye made, is that like if he was actually enjoying doing this, his videos would be longer than they are. And MrBeast goes, what does that even mean, LOL? You think I'd give up every hour of my life for 14 years if I didn't have fun? Skull emoji. And then this is the best part. This clip is insanely disrespectful, in my opinion, and obviously there is so much I could say about his content, but I'll just take the punches and be the bigger man. Sigh. He wrote out sigh at the end. So, to be fair, MrBeast deleted this tweet. And according to both him and Jacksepticeye, they talked behind the scenes over DMs. And they're cool now. Like, they squashed, there's no beef between them or anything. I just want to give the full story. But MrBeast still got a lot of criticism for this tweet. And in my opinion, this is the worst fucking tweet of all. Are you kidding me?
It's the worst response.
Are you kidding me? I'll be the bigger man proceeds to make a 3-paragraph tweet about how hurt you are, about how your feelings are hurt, about him saying all this. And I'm just frustrated with, and again, I don't even dislike MrBeast overall. Like overall, like I watch his content and can find joy in watching his content. But the fact, what has got me frustrated is that nobody's allowed to criticize him. Nobody's allowed to say shit about him without his goonies attacking you. It's cult-like.
It's weird.
What are your thoughts?
I think it's weird. And I think the other thing that, like, I'm glad that we talked about VidSummit and all of that, because the other experience that we had in that environment was feeling like a fish out of water, or like you're surrounded by these people who are like really fiercely committed to this person's fandom, and you're just kind of like, okay, but it's not enough though for you to just be like, not my bag, right? Like, it's not really my thing. I don't really care. Yeah. You know, like, I'm just not really a MrBeast fan. To those people, it's like you're insulting.
That's a criminal offense.
Yes, you're insulting them. You're insulting MrBeast. Yeah. And like, even just an indifference to this person is enough of a slight that we become all whipped up and all upset. And like, that was very much the conference. Like, a lot of people would ask us like, oh, are you so excited for the keynote or MrBeast, whatever? And the first time somebody asked me that, I answered honestly. I was like, I don't know, like, it's not really my thing. You know, like, I don't really like MrBeast that much. And somebody was like very put off by that.
Isn't that why you spent $1,000
yeah.
to be here?
Well, and then, you know, followed by like the 15-minute explanation of why MrBeast is so cool and he's incredible and he's transformed the platform. And just like, I didn't ask, you know, like, I don't really want to know that, you know?
Okay, frat guy.
Yes.
Please go away.
Yeah. And so like, that environment, I think, coupled with what has recently come out about him, just like, you know, the way that he responded to this situation, it does really lend itself to this like community norm that he's created where, like you were saying, nobody can criticize him. This group of people who are so fiercely dedicated to his cause are not willing to hear or see any criticism about this man at all. And like, that's just not healthy, right? Like, I feel the same way about problematic fandoms across the board. Again, like, this is why I really dislike celebrity worship and all of this stuff, because like, it's the same thing. If you are not willing to hear any criticism about a public figure that you really, really like, then like, we should reflect in on like why that's happening, because that's not healthy. Even if you are a fiercely,
that person and that celebrity literally doesn't know you, or care about you.
That's the other thing. Like, is he coming over to your house later? Is he gonna call you after this? Like, he doesn't know that you're alive, dude. Like, relax. I just don't understand this fierce dedication. Like, did he pick you yet? Did he pick you?
Too far. It's just gone too far. I am so, and that's really why I want to talk about it today, because I'm going to, with my full chest, criticize VidSummit, and I'm going to criticize MrBeast. Like, it doesn't mean that I think he's a bad person, and I understand his reaction. I think his tweet was bad, but it was a very human defensiveness. Yeah. Like, I can understand why he felt his feelings were hurt. Yes. I mean, his feelings were hurt. Jack's another big YouTuber. Yeah. And somebody saying that about him on their videos probably hurt his feelings, which is totally fair. But it's just the fact that he doesn't think about, it's not him specifically, it's the fact that he doesn't think about how attached his viewers are to what he says. And him saying this innocent tweet just adds fuel to all of the stands that are like, that he's contributing to that, like, you can't criticize me. Yes. I don't do anything bad. And it's like, maybe you do though.
Well, and I feel like
maybe you shouldn't be doing
it's the thing where like, influencers are allowed to be people in the sense that like, of course it's very human to get your feelings hurt, right? Like, you and I have both had that reaction when somebody criticizes us where we're like, ow, you know, like, that hurt my ego. But what we do is text each other in private and be like, dude, like, I'm depressed, or I'm struggling, or like, this really hurt my feelings, you know, and like, we deal with it like people, where we talk to our people about it. And then like, publicly, you don't put your ass in the street, and you don't give your audience an excuse to brigade someone because they have criticism of you. Like, that's not responsibly using your platform, because like, essentially you're giving all of these very emotionally charged teenagers a reason to go and try to bully somebody, which is like, really not a good look. You know, the other thing, the other thing about this that like really pushes my buttons too is the like, oh, you know, like, I'm only doing this for the philanthropy aspect of this. And like, that's just simply not true. Right? Like, we all need to acknowledge that even you and I, right? Like, you and I both really believe in the content that we create. And like, I especially have been very vocal about like, I'm going to make the content that I think is important, regardless of whether it makes me money or not. But like, also, you can't be a big YouTuber, especially like MrBeast big, and not care about the money, right? Like, VidSummit was essentially a cash grab for all of the people who were there. Like, you basically put on this event where your company who you probably take a paycheck from, is a sponsor for this event that then sold thousands of tickets and then had thousands of their products bought. So that it became this like circular cash grab. Like, of course it's about the money. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's just like such a disingenuous.
Don't insult us by acting like you don't care about money at all.
Like, of course you do.
He does give away a shit ton of his money.
Yeah. But also, MrBeast is not living in a 1-bedroom apartment with a Honda Civic,
exactly.
Is he? Like,
yeah.
You know? I just, like, come on.
I think he just struggles so much with, like I've seen some, like, behind-the-scenes footage of him putting on an event, and, like, he literally tells his crew, like, behind the scenes, he's like, all I care about is that people here have fun. Like, I just want them to have fun. I just want them to have a good experience.
Yeah.
I'm not leaving until every single person that paid to be here gets a picture with me. Like, he gets pretty hyper obsessive about making sure that his fans have a good experience with him, which is admirable. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that.
I appreciate
but
that.
Then it makes me think that when somebody does criticize him, he gets even more hurt because he's like, I try so hard to make everybody to be that non-problematic person that all my fans just love and that just brings happiness. And so when people do criticize him, I think he gets like even more hurt because it's like,
but also like,
then he's like, all I do is try to make people happy.
Well,
and it's like, you're not beyond criticism.
Yes.
Sorry.
Well, that's the thing is that like, that's a you problem, right? Like that's a self-esteem wound. And like, you should go to therapy to work on that like the rest of us, because like the reality is that regardless of how well-intentioned you are, you will inevitably fuck up and someone will inevitably have a criticism of you regardless of how based in reality it is, you know? Like just because you feel a certain way doesn't mean that you're entitled to behave however you want to. This is like a fundamental human learning that we all have to make peace with. But it's like very important when you have a platform of like hundreds of millions of people, you know? I just like really can't deal with how irresponsibly he wields that. And then like the you know, like refusing to take accountability for that, like pushes my buttons. Yeah.
I think the mature thing would have just been like, well, everybody's entitled to their opinions.
Yes.
I mean, we know not everybody likes our content. We don't care. We're just like, if you're a Republican, you probably won't like our podcast.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. You don't have to listen.
Well, I mean, even people like there are other like large content creators in the same niche that you and I are you know, in our own like separate niches. And people will leave comments being like, oh, you know, I like this person and I thought I would like your content, but I don't. And so I'm not going to stay here. And like, okay. That's fine. Right. Like,
I've had people just say they can't stand my voice. I'm like, that's fine. Thanks for sharing, I guess.
Yes.
But whatever.
Like, first of all, this is not an airport and you don't need to announce your departure. But second of all, like, that's fine, right? Like, the internet is vast and expansive and there's room for everybody. There's
billions of people.
Yes. Some of the best advice that I've ever gotten from a big creator was that, you know, giving people the space and like cheering on fellow creators and just like not letting it bother you, like the sentiment of like rising tides raises all ships, you know, like let it go. Your content's not going to be for everybody and that's fine. You know, but like people generally having a good time. I think that's the other
problem is that MrBeast, he does want to be for everyone. I think that is the other thing is that he really does not take criticism well because I know his goal, because his goal at first was to surpass PewDiePie. He wanted to be the biggest single creator, and now he's not the biggest channel though. There's still groups and companies with bigger channels. Now he wants to be the biggest channel. And so I personally think that he doesn't want this like to start because he doesn't want people to unsubscribe or people to not subscribe to him in the first place because it'll mess up his overall goal. What are you doing?
Is Winnie being a weirdo?
She's just like clawing at all the cords down there. I think she's just like, all right, you've been
long enough, Mom.
It's time to pay attention to me.
Which
I'm okay with wrapping it up unless you've had anything else to say.
No,
but
I think that's everything.
I'm tired.
I just generally am, you know, I'm glad we had this conversation because I think there's just some level setting that should happen with that fandom.
I've never talked about it, and we've never talked about VidSummit because I've always been too scared to like criticize it because, again, I don't want to start beef, and I also do legitimately like the people in that space, like Nick Nimmin and stuff like that. And I do like Roberto Blake too. I've watched his other videos and he also helped me a ton and everything. It's just that I don't like some of the culture that it's created. Yeah. And I also just like, you know what? I want to speak out. I want to say my piece because it's been driving me nuts that, you know, so.
Agreed.
All right.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
Okay, everybody. Yeah. Leave us reviews.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you like the episodes, you want to support the pod, one of the best ways you can do that is liking the videos, subscribing, leaving us 5-star reviews, etc., etc. So
all that good stuff, if you'd like. So, all right, we'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.